Other questions we can answer for guys, other thoughts this is brought up. We have a couple minutes here left and would love to keep hearing from everyone who joined us today.
One thing I want to point out, I especially want to reiterate the teaching your children to set boundaries. One thing to be mindful of with that is that they will set those boundaries with you. And that's a whole new, like we had an incident with my 18-year-old over the weekend where she started dating somebody that made her cry previously. So I hate him. And so I've been like, no, we don't, I raised you better than that. And like, she had to like via text be like, I understand where you're coming from, Mom, and I love that you're this concerned about me. And I would love to talk about this with you in person when I get home. And I was like, well, if you're going to communicate well, I can't say no. And like, so just like be aware they will cut their teeth on you. And like, that's usually a good thing, but I get my feelings hurt a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like some really solid parenting though. Like that sounds amazing. I know it, does not feel great. But it still sounds like amazing parenting. I am just I've had that with my daughter back when she was in school in person. I would use her headphones while she was at school because her headphones are better than mine. And she got upset because I guess I ran the battery down on her Bluetooth headphones and she like locked them up. And I was like, you're not even using them. You're at school. I'm just, whatever. And she's like, no, you can't use my headphones. And I'm like, boundaries around her personal items. Okay. I did not have boundaries around my personal items when I was younger. So this is a new thing for me. But I said, okay, she's, drawing a line on what I can and cannot use. And, and like you said, Cassie, sometimes you're like, wow, but I made you. And like, okay. But, you have to allow them to have their voice and to be able to use it. And I really feel like if they can use it with you, then that means they can use it with a lot of other people too. Because I think sometimes setting boundaries with your parents is like the hardest thing. So that's a whole other workshop there.
This is Lisa Mutchler. I know we only have a few minutes left here, but Tara, thank you so much for leading this discussion today. I really appreciate your time, and I love that you guys are putting these on. These are so awesome. I'm just so grateful to have, this forum. I really appreciated, I think it was the question earlier about, Kelly, it was your question earlier about how to talk to your daughter. My son is 3. But I guess part of what I'm curious about, Tara, like if you have any thoughts of maybe would the advice maybe be slightly different for white people, right? Because I think for me and what I've seen among, my white people is that a lot of it's like, oh, I can't explain that to them. They're only 12. And I'm like, hold up, like, that's ridiculous. Like, I think there's a lot more of like, well, I have to protect their innocence, like for way, way longer than is like reasonable, and like, it almost seems to me like that honestly, the majority of white parents would default to just like, never, like, like, let's just not deal with it. So I know for me, I'm trying to be more of like, no, you know what, like we can talk about this right now. Like a little bit more pushing myself to be more open to talking about it. And, for me, like my husband is white too, right? So when I was pregnant, I had this, literally, I'm not kidding around. I had this like moment of crisis that I was like, oh my God, I am pregnant with a white man. Like he's going to be a white man. I was like overwhelmed by just the thought, like of how do I raise him to recognize that incredible privilege, and of course, who knows like how he'll identify in other areas in the future, and intersectionality and all that. But just by virtue of being a white American middle class man, that's a lot of privilege. So I don't know. I just wondered if you had any thoughts about if you would think of it a little differently for white people and white parents.
Yeah. I won't say that I think a bit differently, because I think the conversations that happen, they should still, be at that age appropriate level where it's like, hey, we're not talking about Emancipation Proclamation, 3 years old or whatever. But diving into, those, getting, those history lessons in as they get older, and having those, laying the groundwork for these conversations where it's like, okay, um, when we, watch TV, like what are we watching? When we read books, we have our bedtime, what books are we reading? If we are, going on vacation, what do we go to see? What are we doing? So I think that, it's crucial to have conversations, but it's also crucial to just really embed it in how you live. So if you are, and it's funny because at least I've heard that from some of my other friends, like, oh my God, like I have a white son and I want to make sure that he's incredible, like it's like, whew, like how do we do that? But I think again, like as parents, this is the water that our kids swim in for, 18 years or so. And so I think as parents, is if all of the kids that I've seen, today who are, got a great head on their shoulder, they understand words like privilege and systemic racism and all of that. These kids have had a steady diet of this, whether it's from the home or they found some blog or some podcast or whatever. They've had a steady diet of this, and so I think that um yes, like you said, 12, that's too late to start having these conversations, about, racism and all of that and diversity and everything. But I think that, the reasons for wanting to postpone the conversations, as you pointed out, are very different. I think when white parents say like, oh no, they're too young or whatever, I think often they're still trying to figure out, their standing with how they feel about things and how, they're going to, use their actions to kind of change society. So I think, it starts, a lot of things start in the home. So wonderful. No pressure, guys. It starts in the home. And it's just really about, the water that your kids swim in. One of my clients, she talks about the work being like fluoride. It's like that thing that's in the water, and it's like it's there, it's pervasive, it strengthens us, and it's just something we don't even really think about. So I want our work to kind of be like fluoride. It's just like it's there, it's strengthening us, and it's, you grow up in a house that is just and fair and inclusive, and that 9 times out of 10 that colors how you see the world, that those lessons won't leave you. And so I think that making sure that your world reflects what you want to talk to them about as best you can. I think that's one of the main things that we can do.
I love that. Tara, thank you so much. I want to make sure we get everybody out of here on time. I'm sure people have other ones to get to, but we're going to be the fluoride. It's the first time I've ever been told to be the fluoride, but I like it. We'll take it. We'll go forward with it. So thank you, everyone. This will be posted back on Kunik, and Tara is a Kunik expert that we love and we'll be continuing to work with. So if people have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. We'll put you in touch, all of that. So thank you all. Have a great one. Tara, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your wisdom.